صلوات. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله صمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. صدق الله العلي العظيم. سورة الفاتحة.
محمد وآل محمد صلوات. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. کاظم اٹھا رہے ہیں جعفر کا جنازہ. کاظم اٹھا رہے ہیں جعفر کا جنازہ. تابوت کو اٹھا کر جتنے قدم برآئے ہر ایک قدم پہ ان کو سجاد یاد آئے. عابد کی بے بسی کا نوحہ سنا رہے ہیں. کاظم اٹھا رہے ہیں جعفر کا جنازہ. نکلا دہن سے باہر ہائے جگر جو کٹ کر خون رنگ ہو گیا تھا. مولا کا میرے بستر منظر یہ اہل دل کے دکھا رہے ہیں. کاظم اٹھا رہے ہیں جعفر کا جنازہ. حیدر سے دشمنی اب تک نہیں رکی ہے. مولا حسن سے لے کر جعفر تک آ گئی ہے. ہر ایک چراغ زہرا ظالم بجھا رہے ہیں. کاظم اٹھا رہے ہیں جعفر کا جنازہ. اولاد سیدہ میں ایسا ہے یہ جنازہ جس میں مدینے والے دینے کو آئے پرسا، اہل مدینے سارے یہ غم منا رہے ہیں، کاظم اٹھا رہے ہیں جعفر کا جنازہ، جعفر کے ذہن میں بھی کاظم کا ہے جنازہ، میت اٹھانے والا وارث کوئی نہ ہوگا، زیر کفن بھی جعفر خون روتے جا رہے ہیں، کاظم اٹھا رہے ہیں جعفر کا جنازہ، سلمان اور میثم دیکھا یہ خواب اکثر، بعد ظہور مولا مہدی بقیع میں آ کر، زہرا کا اور ان کا روزہ بنا رہے ہیں، کاظم اٹھا رہے ہیں جعفر کا جنازہ، إلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات سورة المبارك الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب
بر محمد و آل Muhammad صلوات اللهم صل على محمد و آل Muhammad. Mu'minin, tonight's Rouhani Majlis. Majlis has been organized for the Isal Sawab of Marhum Murtaza Bhai Nur Muhammad Nasser of Mombasa and Kul Marhumins. Next Majlis has been sponsored by Bande Khuda for the Isal Sawab of Marhum Ali Bhai Rajab Ali Pardhan, Marhumins of Marhumins of Mamdani family, Marhumins of Pardhani family, Marhumins of Panjwani family, and Kul Marhumins. You humbly requested to recite Surah Fatiha for Kul Marhumins. Al-Fatiha. Bismillah.
اللهم صل على محمد ما شاء الله لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله وكفى وسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا اللهم صل على محمد واللعنة الدائمة الباقية على أعدائهم أجمعين أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في كتابه المجيد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وإذ ابتلى إبراهيم ربه بكلمات فأتمهن قال إني جاعلك للناس إماما قال ومن ذريتي قال لا ينال أحد الظالمين آمنا بالله صدق الله العلي العظيم صلوات اللهم صل على محمد My respected elders, my brothers and sisters in Islam and Iman, Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We send our condolences to the Imam of our time, Imam Sahibul Zaman, Ajjalallahu Farajahu Sharif, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa to the scholars of Islam, to the Muslim Ummah, and to you all, my dear brothers and sisters, on this occasion of the Shahadat anniversary of the sixth Imam, Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq, salawatullah wa salamuhu alayh. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin. I pray to Allah Azza wa Jal by the wasila of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad, that may Allah fulfill all your wishes. Elders, brothers and sisters, the verse of the Holy Quran that I recited is from Surah Al-Baqarah, and mu'mineen, mu'minat are familiar with this verse of the Holy Quran. For whenever we discuss about the issue of imamat, and whenever we want to explain that the appointment of an imam is the sole authority of Allah Azza wa Jal, we use this verse of the Holy Quran where Allah Azza wa Jal tells us that there was a time when Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam underwent tests and trials, and he successfully completed those tests and trials. Upon that, Allah Azza wa Jal tells Nabi Ibrahim, Inni ja'iluka linnasi imama, and I have appointed you as an imam, which in English we translate it as the word leader over the people. Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam asked a question, Qala wa min dhurriyati, and what about my descendants? So Allah Azza wa Jal replied, and this reply was a reply which was specific, it was a rule, and that rule would apply all the time. It was not specifically for Nabi Ibrahim. What Allah Azza wa Jal said was, لا ينال أحد الظالمين, meaning that this pledge of imamat, this pledge of leadership does not extend to the unjust. From this verse of the Holy Quran, one of the conditions that we understand about Imam is that whoever is appointed as Imam, and of course, it is Allah Azza wa Jal who appoints the Imam, that Imam must be just. Because if he is unjust, then he does not deserve the position of leadership. So, based on this verse of the Holy Quran, I want to try and explain from the life of our sixth Imam, if we were to analyze or study and then analyze the life of our sixth Imam, amongst the points that we will get from the life of our sixth Imam, especially from the period of his imamat, when his father, the fifth Imam, Imam Muhammad Baqir, salawatullah wa salamuhu alayhi, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa passed away, and the authority, the leadership, the imamat now was the responsibility of the sixth Imam. You will find 3 points, amongst many points. 3 important points is what Imam did, what Imam struggled for, what Imam tried to achieve. One is the propagation and the explanation on the matter, on the issue of imamat. Important point to understand. One of the things for which Imam really worked hard was to ensure the establishment of imamat. I will explain further on this point. The second point which Imam made, or from his life we can get from his, the second point is regarding his efforts in the propagation and explanation of the true teachings of Islam, and especially the Islamic jurisprudence and the tafsir, the exegesis of the Holy Quran. The true. Right? Now, it is a mistake to think that the thousands of pupils who attended the lessons of our sixth Imam were all those who were practicing and following the Shia faith. In the presence of Imam, in the school of Imam, in the class of Imam, there were also students who used to follow the Sunni fiqh and the Sunni way of following Islam. Because today you will even find that there are traditions that are mentioned by Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, and they come from quoting our sixth Imam. So, Imam really worked hard. His classes were not specifically for the followers of Ahlul Bayt or those who were Shias. It was open to all, and people used to come and learn from Imam. Question that may come into a young mind is that what is it that happened that Imam struggled, or Imam struggled in the sense that Imam worked hard in order to ensure the true teaching of Islam and the true teaching of the tafsir of the Holy Quran. What had happened? And after the death of the Holy Prophet, there were changes, innovations, and matters that were brought into the teachings of Islam that were taking away the people from the true teachings and from the true sunnah of the Holy Prophet. Whatever the Prophet had worked, we must never, okay? This is very important sentence that I am now narrating or telling you, and that is, never underestimate the struggles of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wa sallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Now is not the time for me to elaborate on that, but briefly is that when you want to study about the struggles made by the Holy Prophet in trying to convey the message of Islam to the people, you look at the time, at the situation, at the environment, at the mindset of the people, those of the practices that were prevalent at that time, and how the Holy Prophet took the people out from dhulumat, from darkness, ila nur, to the light. It was not easy for the Holy Prophet. He really worked hard. After the death of the Holy Prophet, all that he had prepared and all that he had taught, slowly, innovation and other things started creeping into Islam. And therefore, when our sixth Imam got the opportunity, at the time when Banu Umayyah's powers were weakening, and Banu Umayyah were more interested in trying to secure their power and were trying to work hard in order to ensure that we stay alive and we rule over the Muslims. They did not pay attention specifically to sixth Imam, and sixth Imam took that opportunity. And remember, it was a period of from the year his father passed away in the year 114 after Hijrah until the year 136 AH. During this period, Imam got a golden opportunity. He made use of this opportunity in order to explain. So that is the second point that we learn from the life of our sixth Imam. And the third point is, very important to understand is, how did Imam work? Imam was a great scholar. There is no doubt about that. And the historians have all said this, that he was a great teacher, he was a great scholar, he was a mentor, and he worked hard to train students. Number two, we know that Imam struggled, that is, he worked hard, he endeavored in order to ensure that the teachings of Islam remain alive, the true teachings of Islam remain alive. But one point which is never discussed about the life of our sixth Imam is that of his organizational ability. During the time of sixth Imam, Imam made a network of his followers in such a way that if Imam wanted, I'm giving you an example now, if Imam wanted to deliver a message to the Shias, to the followers in North Africa, to the Muslims in North Africa, it was for Imam to send his message to his wakil, to his representative there. So you talk about Khorasan, you talk about Mediterranean coast, you talk about the places where there were the Muslims and they were all under the rule of the Muslim ruler at that time. In each of those countries and places, Imam had his representative. One more point. When Allah Azza wa Jal appointed his prophets, when he appointed those who were going to be the Hujjah of Allah on this earth, the representatives of Allah on this earth, their task was not only limited to just teaching about belief in Allah, belief in the Day of Judgment, do this, don't do that, these are obligations, these are forbidden things. It was not only limited to that. Every prophet had one task, and that task was to establish a rule of Allah Azza wa Jal on this earth. So sixth Imam, and if you look at history, you will find in the books that sixth Imam worked tirelessly in order to try and overthrow, create a huge army and go and overthrow Banu Umayyah, whose headquarters was in Damascus. Imam worked tirelessly and he was going and achieving towards that aim when Banu Abbas came in between and spoiled the whole matter. Why did they do so? How did they do so? It's not what I'm going to discuss today, okay? But it is important subject, inshallah, sometime others when we can try and understand as to how Imam did that and how Banu Abbas came and defeated that work of Imam. But even after Banu Abbas came to power in the year 132 after Hijrah, it is not that Imam kept this matter on the side. Imam was now working secretly in order to establish this government. Okay? So we now come to the first point, and that first point is that of Imamat. I want us to understand this point as to how Imam worked very hard in order to ensure that people believed in the Imamat. So, first point you have to understand before I explain the incident in the life of sixth Imam. Recite salawat, please. The Banu Umayyah Khulafa and Banu Abbasi Khulafa, who had taken over the power and were ruling over the Muslims, those people who were sitting there in the post, in that authority, these were the people who did not have Islamic knowledge. They could not be counted amongst to be say these were fuqaha or these were ulama. No. Some of them were those who spent their life in pleasures of this world. More interested in that. But that is the authority that they had. And to rule over the Muslims, one of the important points was that they must have an Islamic approach, an Islamic environment, an Islamic attitude. So in order to get that support, what they did was that they bought ulama. There were those ulama who were given or who used to be in the palaces of these people, and these were the ones who would guide and who would say, in this such matters do this, in such matters do this. When there was to be a judgment given, they would say according to the Holy Quran, according to the tradition of the Holy Prophet. So the Khilafat in the eyes of people was coming to this way, that there is a ruler, a person who has authority and he calls himself to be authority of Allah or successor of the Holy Prophet, and then he has the support of the scholars, and this is what the Khilafat is about. Imam wanted to take this out from the minds of the people. And in order to do so, Imam did many things. I'm just going explaining one point, and this is to understand how Imam took the opportunity. Okay? It is day of Arafah. Arafah, we are talking about that time. During that time when the Muslims were coming from all the parts of the Muslim world. Okay? Whether it is Khorasan, whether it is Iraq, whether it is Turkmenistan, whether it is other places, the people had come, and you all know, those who have gone for Hajj, Arafat is one day when all the Hujjaj are present at one place. And it was there at that time when, after performing those important recommended acts, and people had gathered in plenty, Amr bin Muqadim, who is the narrator of this event, he says that I saw the sixth Imam come. Huge gathering of the people. And he then stood in between the people. And then he looked towards one direction and repeated or said something, not once, but 3 times, towards one direction. And Amr says that Imam said this in a very loud voice. Okay? Then he turned towards another direction. And he repeated the same sentences 3 times towards that direction in a loud voice. And then he turned towards the third direction and repeated the same thing 3 times very loudly amongst the people. If you want to understand, then we come to understand from here that what the media does today, that when there is an important news, it goes to one news channel, it goes to different news channels throughout the world, and then it is broadcasted and people listen to it and come to know about it. This was kind of work that Imam did on the plains of Arafat. Question is, what is it that Imam was conveying to them? Was he telling them about the rites of Hajj? Was he trying to explain to them about the philosophy of Hajj? Whether he was trying to explain to them about the ethical values as taught by Islam? What did Imam say? And remember, he is not saying it once. He is saying it 3 times. And he's saying it in a loud voice. He is not telling one person, you also go and convey this, and the second person, you go and convey this. No, he himself conveys it 3 times and in loud voice. And what does he say? Ayyuhan nas, inna Rasulallahi kana al-imam. O people, indeed, the messenger of Allah was an imam, was a leader. He did not say he was Rasul, he was Nabi, or he was Khatamun Nabiyyin. No, he said he was Imam, he was leader. Then Imam said, ثم كان علي بن أبي طالب اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد ثم الحسن ثم الحسين ثم علي بن الحسين ثم محمد بن الباقر thumma, and then Imam stopped. We are all Shias, and we'll all understand what Imam did was, he took the name of the first Imam, the second Imam, the third Imam, the fourth Imam, the fifth Imam. And then after that he kept quiet. Thumma, and then he just kept quiet. Biharul Anwar mentions this. Why did he keep quiet? What was he trying to convey? The message was very clear. That if you understand, and I am telling you, that Rasulullah was Imam, he was leader. Leader in the sense that he was not only sent to spiritually guide the people and talk about only spiritual matters, but rather the Holy Prophet was given the authority, and he did establish that authority in Medina by establishing a government. He was an Imam. He was the leader. And after him, the leader was Imam Ali alayhi salam. After them, the leader was Imam Hassan, and then Imam Hussein. And after that was the fourth Imam. And then after that, he says, was my father, Muhammad ibn Ali. Thumma, after that, it is me. Indirectly, I am also the Imam. In that time, when people had turned away from Imamat, people were afraid of Banu Umayyah and Banu Abbasi rulers. Imam works hard in order to ensure that the institution of Imamat, the institution which has been created by Allah, remains alive, and all have to work towards it. There are traditions that also mention as to what Imam was telling the people about the matter of and the issue of Imamat. Okay? But this is one point for us to understand of the hard work that Imam did in order to ensure. It is for us to now take this point and understand that. When we believe in the Imam of our time, our belief is that when the 12th Imam will come, then that authority that he will have will be the authority which the rulers of different countries are having at present. When they are ruling over these countries, politically, economically, socially, whatever rules they make. But when the Imam of our time will come, then he will be the ruler over the world. And then he will establish peace and justice on this earth. He will establish equity on this earth. And then ensure that he will invite the people towards the religion of Islam. Recite salawat, please. Now, another point that I want to make, of course, this is out from the issue of Imamat, is just for us to take one lesson that we can learn what Imam taught and told a person who came in his presence. Okay? Important point to understand and for us to know that the teachings of A'imma Tahirin alayhimus salam are very practical teachings. They're not just theoretical teachings. The practical teachings to take the people, put them on that path, start practicing this, and you are going towards the teachings of Allah Azza wa Jal. There is a gathering, and this has been narrated by in Amali of Sheikh Tusi alayhi rahmah. In chapter number 11, we find this tradition quoting the narrators. I'm leaving out all the narrators, but taking the last two narrators. An Dawood bin Sarhan, an Abi Qutada al-Qummi, an Dawood bin Sarhan, or Dawood bin Sarhan said that I heard from Abu Qatada al-Qummi, okay, who heard from so and so and so. What does Dawood bin Sarhan say? He says, Kunna inda Abi Abdullah. We were present in the presence of sixth Imam, Imam Jafar as-Sadiq, salawatullah wa salamuhu alayh. إذا دخل عليه سدير السيرفي. Entered a person by the name of Sudair al-Sayrafi. فَسَلَّمَ وَجَلَسَ. He greeted and then he sat down. Immediately Imam told him, فَقَالَ لَهُ, that is sixth Imam told him, يا Sudair, ما كثر مال أحد قط إلا كثرت الحجة لله تعالى عليه. He said, important point to understand, Imam said that when a man's wealth increases, the responsibility from Allah Azza wa Jal towards him also increases. When man's wealth increases, the responsibility from Allah towards that man, towards his wealth, also increases. فَإِنْ قَدَرْتُمْ تَدْفَعُونَهَا عَنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ فَافْعَلُوا. If you can, Imam said, repel it from yourself, meaning that if you can fulfill that responsibility, then fulfill that responsibility, فَافْعَلُوا, and remove that responsibility that has come upon you. Naturally, now he hears an instruction from Imam. Imam has just told him, increase in wealth, responsibility increases. How can you? Or you have to remove that. So he asked, يا ابن رسول الله بماذا؟ فقال بقضاء حوائج إخوانكم من أموالكم. How can I fulfill this responsibility? Sudair said, asked, and Imam replied to him and said, by fulfilling the needs of your brothers from your wealth. Sayrafi, a person who is currency exchanger, is called Sayrafi. Sayrafi is not considered to be a good person, as if we can put it in very simple words. Okay? But he was a person who comes in presence of Imam. Imam has to guide him and tells him, right? He was a money exchanger, used to exchange silver and other things, right? And he was called by that because that was his profession, that was his work. And Imam immediately tells him, I know that you have a lot of wealth. And with all that wealth that you have, remember this is a test from Allah Azza wa Jal. And this test you have to fulfill. This test you have to make sure that you pass through this test and you fulfill those responsibilities that are upon you. How do I fulfill that? Right? It is there when Imam tells him that with the wealth that you have, try and fulfill the needs of your brothers. If Imam's instruction was only for that particular period, right, Imam would have said that now are the times when my Shias and my followers and your brother in faith are all in difficulties, so try and help them out. No, this instruction was for everyone, and this established two things. Number one is the responsibility. Remember when Allah gives out of His fadl, Right? Of course, we thank Allah Azza wa Jal for whatever He gives us out of His grace. Right? The people who have a lot, but there are people who are in need, and in order to assist them and help them, that responsibility is there for you to fulfill the needs. Okay? This is one thing that Imam established and told. Remember those responsibilities. Second thing, Imam mentions over here is that about ensuring that you look after the welfare of your brothers. Not necessarily always looking after someone by saying, okay, I'm ready to assist you, I'm ready to help you. In this way, I can give you this much amount of money. No. In different ways, in whichever ways it is possible, we are all followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. I have said this once also here, that one thing that is all bringing us together over here and sitting together over here today is that wilayat of Ali bin Abi Talib alayhi salam that we have in our hearts. That is what is bringing us. That is how it keeps close to us. So looking after the welfare of the brothers, okay? I don't wish to go out of the topic, but I want to bring a point that is related to it. This Sunday we were having a discussion, after the program that we have, then we come to have breakfast, and during breakfast then we have, mazungumzo baada ya habari, as they say in Swahili. Okay, so we sit down and we have discussion, and there are various issues discussed. One of the things that we discussed, or we were discussing about, was the necessity, the importance of social life for any human being. Any person who lives alone comes to a stage when he is in depression. I said today, I'm not talking about us, the Muslims or the Shias only, we're talking about the human beings. And all the human beings in different ways go and participate and ensure that they are having a good social life in whichever manner they do. But I said, look at how beautiful the teaching of Islam and the teaching of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Is that we are being called for Salatul Jama'ah. Salatul Jama'ah itself, coming to the masjid itself, when we stand and when we pray after prayers, okay? Maybe there will be one or two people who will say, I don't want to talk to anyone, and he goes away. But majority of the people interact, right? Even if it is just salam, even if it is just how are you, and whatever it is, in very simple way, they will interact. But I said, look at this teaching. What we do after salat is that we go and shake the hands. There is a tradition of sixth Imam, Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq salawatullah wa salamuhu alayh. And that tradition says that if you shake hand with the person of your own town, right, that means that you have fulfilled that right. And to fulfill the right of a traveler, it is there for you to hug him. I paraphrase the hadith. Okay? So, people of the town, same town, shake hands, you have fulfilled the right. But I told my dear brother that on Sunday that, listen, look at this, look at the effect. We are told to shake the hands. But the Prophet says that as long as two mu'min brothers are shaking their hands, the mercy of Allah is there, and when they separate, all their sins are forgiven. We're never thinking in this line, isn't it? Every day we would have that gathering. Every day we would benefit from this. And who knows, one day it could happen that a mu'min brother would be in need of your help, and he would come to you, ask you something, and by which you would then be able to respond, help him, assist him, whatever way you can. This is how important that social life is. As I said, I don't want to go out of the topic. Coming back to one more saying of our sixth Imam, I will come towards Masa'ib, and that is when a person comes in the presence of our sixth Imam. Those of you who have Tuhaful Uqul at home, okay, if you want to see this saying, because I'm paraphrasing and I'm explaining in my own words, it is in the words of wisdom, because there are so many chapters in the sayings of sixth Imam. One of the chapter is words of wisdom. If you go to number 27 there, you will find this hadith that a person came in the presence of sixth Imam and he asked him a question. Ya Aba Abdullah or Yabna Rasulullah, my question to you is that I want the goodness of this world as well as the goodness of the hereafter. Right? I want the goodness of this world and goodness of the hereafter. Right? Person would come to me, I would start listing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This will give you good in this world. I'm talking about me, huh? Give you good in the hereafter. Give you a big lecture, huh? Imam told him 2 words. 2 words in Arabic. You want goodness of this world and goodness in the hereafter. La takzib, don't speak lies. Now sit and let us reflect, not just now, when you go home and reflect. 2 words. One who is called as-sadiq, the truthful. One who is truthful in his intention, in his words, in his action. He says, La takzib. Don't speak lies. You will have goodness in this world, goodness in the hereafter. These are some of the beautiful teachings of sixth Imam, Azadaro. इमाम जाफ़र सादिक अलैहिस्सलाम ने बहुत मेहनत की और हम जानते हैं और तारीख़ में मिलता भी है कि इमाम की ये वो इमाम है जिसकी इमामत का वक्त सबसे ज़्यादा था और 12वें इमाम को छोड़ के बाकी जो इमाम ताहिरीन अलैहिमुस्सलाम है उनमें से इमामत का वक्त जो इमाम को मिला वो सबसे ज़्यादा हमारे छठे इमाम को मिला और इमाम जाफ़र सादिक अलैहिस्सलाम ने बहुत कोशिश की जब मौका मिला तो वो कोशिश जारी रही और जब मौका चला भी गया तो कई तरीके से इमाम कोशिश कर रहे थे कि इमाम अहले बैत और रसूलुल्लाह का जो बताए हुए चीज़ें हैं उनको इमाम लोगों तक पहुँचाए। बस अज़ादारों, बनु अब्बासी को बनु हाशिम से दुश्मनी थी। बनु अब्बास खिलाफत पर थे, मंसूर अल-दवानिकी ये दूसरा खलीफा है और दूसरा रूलर है बनु अब्बास का। उसने जब ये देखा कि लोग इमाम जाफ़र सादिक अलैहिस्सलाम की तरफ बहुत ज़्यादा बढ़ रहे हैं, उसकी बहुत सी कोशिश करने के बाद भी वो कामयाब नहीं हुआ। हाँ अज़ादारों, कुछ लोग ऐसे हैं, कुछ हिस्टोरियंस ऐसे हैं जिन्होंने लिखा है कि मंसूर और इमाम जाफ़र सादिक अलैहिस्सलाम के बीच में सुलह थी और एक दूसरे की वो रिस्पेक्ट कर रहे थे। ऐसा नहीं है अज़ादारों। मंसूर अल-दवानिकी इमाम का सबसे बड़ा दुश्मन था और उसकी कोशिश ही यही थी कि कब मौका मिले तो इमाम को ख़त्म कर लेवे। عزادارو اس حد تک تاریخ میں ملتا ہے کہ ایک مرتبہ اس نے والی مدینہ کو حکم دیا کہ تم جا کے جعفر صادق کے گھر کو آگ لگا دو. بس عزادارو اس والی مدینہ نے منصور الدوانقی کا حکم سنا اور اس نے امام کے گھر کو آگ لگائی. اور تاریخ میں ملتا ہے کہ اس آگ میں امام گئے اور بولے کہ میں اس کا فرزند ہوں جس کی وجہ سے یہ زمین دھڑکن دے رہی ہے، اور میں ابراہیم کا بیٹا ہوں جسے آگ میں ڈالا گیا تھا، تم مجھے کچھ نہیں کر سکتے. بس عزادارو وہ موقع آیا جب منصور دوانقی نے کہا کہ امام کو زہر دیا جائے. بس عزادارو امام کو زہر دیا گیا. اور عزادارو ہم نے مرثیہ میں سنا، ابھی جو مرثیہ پڑھا گیا تھا، کیسے امام موسیٰ الکاظم علیہ السلام کی حالت ہوئی تھی کہ جب ان کے بابا اس دنیا سے چلے گئے. بس عزادارو میں یہی کہوں گا کہ امام موسیٰ الکاظم اور امام علی زین العابدین علیہ السلام کی عمر میں کوئی بڑا فرق نہیں تھا. امام موسیٰ الکاظم کی عمر 20 سال کی تھی، امام علی زین العابدین کی عمر کچھ 23 سال کی تھی. جب امام موسیٰ کاظم نے بابا کو غسل بھی دیا اور کفن پہنایا، اور عزادارو تاریخ میں ملتا ہے کہ امام کا جنازہ شان و شوکت سے اٹھایا گیا. آج وہ زمانہ ہے، کل کوئی نہیں تھا جو آتا تھا. جب علی کا جنازہ اٹھا تو کچھ لوگ تھے، جب فاطمہ کا جنازہ اٹھا رات کی تاریکی میں 2 یا 3 آدمی تھے. عزادارو مولا حسین کا جنازہ میں کوئی تشییع دینے کے لیے شریک نہیں تھا. تھا جو وہ جوان فرزند جو باعجاز کربلا میں پہنچے اور انہوں نے بنو اسد کو بتایا کہ یہ میرے بابا کا لاشا، یہ میرے چچا عباس کا لاشا ہے، یہ میرے بھائی علی اکبر کا لاشا ہے. عزادارو جب مدینے والوں نے احترام کے ساتھ امام جعفر صادق علیہ السلام کو دفن کیا جنت البقیع میں 20 سال کی عمر میں کہوں گا اے امام موسیٰ الکاظم، آپ نے اپنے بابا کو بہت احترام سے دفن کیا، لیکن آپ کے جد امام علی زین العابدین سے ذرا پوچھئے کہ ان کی حالت کیا ہوئی تھی. ایک موقع زمین کربلا پر ایسا بھی آیا تھا کہ جوان فرزند ہے اور دیکھ رہا ہے کہ بابا کا لاشا یوں ہی پڑا ہے، کوئی غسل نہیں دے رہا ہے، کوئی کفن پہنانے والا نہیں ہے، کوئی دفن کرنے والا نہیں ہے. امام کے چہرے کا رنگ بدلنے لگا. عاففی اماں تھی جس نے تسلی دی، بیٹا گھبرانا نہیں. الا لعنت اللہ علی القوم الظالمین وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. ماتم يا حسين يا حسين.
یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا ہائے جعفر صادق، ہائے جعفر صادق، ہائے جعفر صادق، ہائے جعفر صادق، بابا گزر گئے ہیں، کاظم کا مرثیہ ہے، بابا گزر گئے ہیں، کاظم کا مرثیہ ہے، بابا گزر گئے ہیں، کاظم کا مرثیہ ہے، بابا گزر گئے ہیں، مرثیہ ہے، کعبہ لرز رہا ہے، کعبہ لرز رہا ہے، یثرب میں زلزلہ ہے، بابا گزر گئے ہیں، کاظم کا مرثیہ ہے، بابا گزر گئے ہیں، کا مرثیہ ہے، بابا گزر گئے ہیں، ٹکڑے جگر کے ہائے کٹ کٹ کے گر رہے ہیں، ٹکڑے جگر کے ہائے کٹ کٹ کے گر رہے ہیں، صادق پہ کاذبوں نے، ہائے صادق پہ کاذبوں نے کیسا ستم کیا ہے، بابا گزر گئے ہیں، کاظم کا مرثیہ ہے، بابا گزر گئے ہیں، کاظم کا مرثیہ ہے، بابا گزر گئے ہیں، ہم شیر کو پدر کے سینے سے لپٹا دیکھا، ہم شیر کو پدر کے سینے سے لپٹا دیکھا، آئے سکینہ کہہ کر، آئے سکینہ کہہ کر، کاظم تڑپ رہا ہے، بابا گزر گئے ہیں، کاظم کا مرثیہ ہے، بابا گزر گئے ہیں، جبریل نے صدا دی آیا ہے وقت گریا، جبریل نے صدا دی آیا ہے وقت گریا، لوگو غریب باکر، ہاں لوگو غریب باکر دنیا سے چل بسا ہے، بابا گزر گئے ہیں، کاظم کا مرثیہ ہے، بابا گزر گئے ہیں، کا مرثیہ، جعفر کی بیٹیاں ہیں، سر اپنا پیٹتی ہیں، جعفر کی بیٹیاں ہیں، سر اپنا پیٹتی ہیں، رو کر پکارتی ہیں، ہائے رو کر پکارتی ہیں، زینب کا حوصلہ ہے، بابا گزر گئے ہیں، کاظم کا مرثیہ ہے، بابا گزر گئے ہیں، سارے جہاں کو جس نے بانٹا ہے علم و حکمت، سارے جہاں کو کو جس نے بانٹا ہے علم و حکمت، یہ زہر اس کو دے کر ہے، یہ زہر اس کو دے کر کیسا سلا دیا ہے، بابا گزر گئے ہیں، کاظم کا مرثیہ ہے، بابا گزر گئے ہیں، مرثیہ ہے۔ اے جنت البقیہ ظالم بہت ہے امت، اے جنت البقیہ ظالم بہت ہے امت، قبروں کو مالکوں کی، ہاں قبروں کو مالکوں کی مسمار کر دیا ہے، بابا گزر گئے ہیں، کاظم کا مرثیہ ہے، بابا گزر گئے ہیں، کاظم مرثیہ ہے، کعبہ لرز رہا ہے کعبہ لرز رہا ہے، یثرب میں زلزلہ ہے، بابا گزر گئے ہیں، کاظم کا مرثیہ ہے، بابا گزر گئے ہیں، کاظم ہے، پر محمد و آل محمد صلوات۔ سورۃ المبارکۃ الفاتحہ۔ السلام علیک یا رسول اللہ، السلام علیک یا امیر المؤمنین، السلام علیک یا فاطمۃ الزہراء، السلام علیک یا خدیجۃ الکبریٰ، السلام علیک یا حسن المجتبی، السلام علیک یا ابا عبد اللہ الحسین، وعلی تسعة المعصومین من ذریتک، علی بن الحسین ومحمد بن علی وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والحجة بن الحسن، أجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل تعالى مخرجك وظهورك، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته۔ بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، اللهم كل وليك الحجة بن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وأينا، حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين۔